Yeah, I'm not sure who else might join us this evening, but it's definitely time. So why don't we just energize our bodies a little bit for the meditation? Just maybe get out some wiggles and um, bring the mind in alignment with the body. So if you rather stay seated, that would be definitely an option. Or if you just want to lie down for this portion to relax, that's also
Oh God, I'd be asleep.
however you would like to be in this moment is just fine. So I'm probably gonna get up as well. I fall to. I thought I was gonna stay seated, but I think I'm gonna get up as well. So let's see. I'm gonna have to move a couple of things. There we go. Okay. All right. So there's Elaine joining us. It's nice to have Elaine join, not just because it's just nice to have Elaine, but also to have this whole screen filled out with these squares. So I don't know how it appears on your end, but it feels like we're complete now. So it's kind of nice. And then maybe if Denise joins us, I forgot what happens then, but we'll find out. So can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So
Sorry about that.
just maybe take a moment to come into your seat or come into your standing posture. And just take a moment to allow the weight to settle down. Just sort of as if you were unburdening yourself and just releasing everything down into the earth that might have been swirling down in your mind, or sensations that might be present in the body. See if you can just come to a sense of grounding with it all. Just really building a connection with the earth in this moment. Deeply, deeply rooting down into the earth. And you may have your eyes closed or slightly open, perhaps gazing down. And really just journeying into your own body, into your own being. And you may become aware of the sensations of breathing through your body. And perhaps you would enjoy taking a few deeper in breaths and out breaths. Breathing in long, breathing out complete. And with each in-breath, you can feel a sense of uplift, of taking into your cells. And with each exhale, just feel that sensation of letting go, letting go, letting go. And we'll just breathe in the same way again, breathing in, taking in, feeling yourself lifting slightly. And then with an exhale, settling down with a sense of release, with a sense of letting go. And we'll just do that a few more rounds on our own, knowing that we're all breathing together in this space, feeling a sense of community through our breath. And the breath connecting us all together in this space. And then wherever you are, if you're seated, you might want to just shake out your hands in front of you. If you're standing, you might bring in the hips, keeping your feet grounded, whether you're standing or seated, and just sort of shaking out any tension, anything that feels stuck in the body. So you can see if your body would like to do this more vigorously or more gently, maybe swaying from side to side a bit, maybe even twisting from the torso from side to side a few times. And just keep this going, bouncing from the knees, keeping your feet grounded on the earth. Just sense into how the body wants to shake, how it wants to move. Maybe it wants to make some sounds. Ah. And then eventually we'll find our way back to stillness. And just notice your body now from the inside out, feeling the aliveness, feeling the sensations that might be present now, perhaps any tingling or swirling or vibrating. Noticing the temperature in the body. And perhaps noticing again the rhythms of your breathing, the quality of your breathing in this moment. And we'll just gently twist from side to side a few times. You could do this seated as well, just engaging the torso. Just gently allowing the arms to stay relaxed and then just touching either side at the area of the hips, perhaps. And just letting the body be loose, the arms be loose, the torso be loose. And then just gently twisting side to side. And then just a few more rounds at your own pace. And then we'll all come back to the center, facing one another, coming back to stillness. And it's turned dark outside by now, so we can picture the darkness behind closed eyes. And just bringing in the gentle evening energies of the earth. So we're going to bring in the earth chi, the earth energy, maybe more of a calm and settled energy. So we're going to bend down on an in breath and gathering the earth chi, having the palms facing in towards the body as we bring the torso back up. And then exhale, just whoosh, releasing the earth chi. And then inhaling back down, bending deeply into the knees. And then let your hands come up through the midline of the body and then exhale, release. Inhaling slowly down, gathering the earth chi, bringing it all the way up through the body, and then exhaling, release. We'll just do this a few more rounds, very gently and slowly, connecting with the earth element. Just 2 more times. And then just let the arms swing out. The torso can stay upright, slowly coming back into a mountain pose, perhaps having the palms facing forward. The heart center can be lifted. Just feeling the breath up and down the spine. And then we're going to inhale up overhead and just lacing the hands together except for the pointer fingers. Take a nice deep in-breath, really lifting up through the chest and the fingers. And then we'll exhale over to the right, coming into a nice side stretch, stretching the left hip out. And just breathing up and down the side body. Deep and long breaths here. See if you can keep the body relaxed even in this more intense stretch. And then inhale, torso back to center, lifting the arms up. And then exhaling over to the left, stretching out the right hip, letting it bulge out over to the right. And keeping your belly button in towards the midline and the heart center lifted as you deepen into the side stretch with each exhale. Allowing the eyes and facial muscles to stay relaxed. Inhaling slowly back up. And then exhale, we release the arms back down. And then we're going to inhale the backs of the hands together. And then as you exhale, lifting up and then arms back down, out to the side and back down. Inhaling back of the hands together. And then exhaling, release. I'm just doing this a few more rounds, stretching the shoulders, stretching the arms. Three more rounds. Last one. And then just relax the arms as you come back into stillness, just noticing the sensations in the arms and the hands. Feeling the quality of the breath again in this moment. And before we come back to seated, we're just going to do some gentle massage movements. So we're going to make a fist and then just gently tap in the chest area, side to side, maybe down the sternum a couple of times. So just a gentle tapping in the upper chest area. And then we're going to go down in the midline and then to the outside of the belly, all the way down, sort of up and down in half circles a couple of times. And then just relax the arms down. We're going to lift the left arm and just tapping down from the armpit down, the side body 3 times. And then lifting the right arm, and again from the armpit down, the side body 3 times. And then we're going to make fists again and just lean forward slightly and then pummel into the lower back and the area of the kidney. And then you can just tap down to the buttocks and the hips. And then all the way back in the back of the legs, all the way down, tapping, coming back up to the inside of the legs, all the way up to the belly, maybe tapping the belly a few times. And just shaking out the hands vigorously in front. releasing any tension from the fingers, from the hands. And then we're just going to place our hands onto our face. Just a really loving touch, just connecting with yourself in this way, in a gentle and loving way. Breathing in and out as you do so. And we'll move the hands into the back of the neck and just massage the back of the neck. All the way down into the shoulders. And we'll make fists one more time and just really pummel into the head. You can really knock all around. It's not going to do any damage, but it's going to wake us and make our mind more sharp and clear for our sitting practice. And then last but not least, we're just going to stretch the earlobes a few times, massaging all around the ears, maybe even with your fingernails, really waking up for the sitting practice that's to follow. And then just let go, let the arms rest, and then slowly finding your way back to your seat that you have most likely set yourself up already for this coming meditation practice. And just please take your time to get here, to find your seat. No rushing required. Maybe covering yourself with a blanket. And I'm just looking for my water. I'll be right there. There we go. So taking care to get out the last wiggles with an intention to come into as much stillness as you can. For this time of practice, we'll be practicing for about half an hour together this evening. And I'm just going to all invite us to come together for our seated practice by ringing the bell 3 times. So just take care to follow the sound of the bell and just use that as a signal to call yourself back home into your body, into your breath. And I invite you to close your eyes for your practice or keep your eyes slightly open with the gaze down in one spot, whatever feels right to you. And so I'm just going to ring the bell now 3 times to begin our seated practice. And see if you can simply begin by feeling the weight of your body as you're sitting here. Let your sit bones, your legs, your feet be heavy, really grounding down into the earth. Feel the solidity of the earth beneath you. You're seated on the earth as a mountain that from this place of solidity can begin to grow upwards, spreading their branches up towards the sky. So perhaps lifting the crown of the head slightly upwards towards the night sky, feeling a lifting through the chest area. And allowing the rest of the body to stay as relaxed as possible. Feeling your eyes and facial muscles soft. Your shoulders relaxing down. Allow your chest to remain open for this time of practice. And your arms and hands can rest easily. And you can feel the air element in the belly as the breath moves in and out, feeling the sensations of breathing in your belly. And just allow the breath to be gentle and natural, inviting a sense of gentleness into your whole being. And it can be helpful to bring something uplifting into your mind to be an aid for your practice. Perhaps a sense of gratitude for a human being or for an animal, for something in nature. And just allowing to infuse that into your whole being. So bringing in whatever feels supportive of your practice this evening to be your companion. And if there's nothing particular that comes to mind, the breath is always a companion that is immediately here that you can turn towards to accompany you in your practice. So perhaps choosing a place in your body where it feels most easy for you to turn your attention to your breathing, to rest your attention on the breath. And just getting a sense of the quality of the breath, however it manifests in this moment. Just with an intention to be with it, however it wants to manifest as it flows in and out. And there's absolutely no efforting required other than gently staying with your companion, staying with your breath, and just having a sense of curiosity, what might wish to arise from the inside in your being. Whatever wishes to present itself, can you receive it in a loving way? If you find yourself drifting away, perhaps bringing a bit more brightness into the mind, If you feel in any way that things are closing in onto you emotionally, you might want to open up the awareness a bit more and become aware of sounds, inner and outer. And just gently bring your awareness back into your whole body, feeling your whole body sitting here in this meditative way. Connecting once again with your companion, with the breath, if you lost the connection somehow. And then we'll bring our hands together and then just rub them together swiftly, bringing back some heat into the body. And then placing the palms of the hands onto our closed eyes, just nourishing the eyes in this way. Massaging the back of the neck again, and the shoulders. If you were sitting cross-legged, maybe stretching out the legs now, grounding the feet. And then maybe massaging the legs and the knees all the way down into your feet. And then if you feel ready, you can open your eyes again. Namaste, everyone. Namaste.
Can read it. To know this reality directly is possible only through practicing non-duality. When you live this non-separation, all things manifest the one, and nothing is excluded. Whoever comes to enlightenment, no matter when or where, realizes personally this fundamental source.
I'm going to repost the previous paragraph just for reference, because to know this reality directly seems to be referencing the previous paragraph. So I'm just going to put that in. So the reality is the world as it really is, where there is neither self nor other than self. We can springboard from there.
So it feels like very much like a dance coming back to the world, where in the ultimate reality, there is no separation, all is one. And then in the relative realm, everything is about drawing borders in the line and pointing out how we're all different and what we should be fighting over to protect our religions and ethnicities and this and that and the other. And it's a real dance to bring these together somehow. And I guess the only way that I can really be with it in any way, shape or form is to bring it back into my own being and see this dance going on within myself all the time, that there are separating and non-separating elements, and to come to a place of peace with it in myself first. So I feel like this time in the world, and it's not, I mean, this is just really going on all the time anyway. It just happens that this is in the news now because it's maybe something that, you know, there's an interest in this country. It's very either Eurocentric or it's very American centric, but these things are happening all the time on other continents. But so that helps me as well to really see that, oh yeah, this is just on the radar because there's an interest there that we have or that Europe has. But I feel like this is a really good time, first of all, to come back from myself, to make sense of it within myself, that these wars are going on inside of myself, and come to a place of peace with it first. And I feel like that's very useful in this time, especially when things feel overwhelming on the outside, to first center myself again. So, yeah.
I noticed something that first struck me like kind of like circular reasoning, but now I'm kind of looking at it a little bit more, and maybe you'll look at it with me. So, the last sentence of the previous paragraph, the one at the bottom, in this world as it really is, there's neither self nor other than self. To know this reality directly is possible only through practicing non-duality. So it's like saying, what I read was like saying, the world as it really is a non-dualistic world, and to know that world directly, you have to practice non-dualism. But I realize it's not quite saying that. Um, because there's that piece again about the difference between oneness as the kind of alternative to duality and this neither self nor other than self, which is, going back the last 2 weeks, this kind of emptiness that we were talking about it being. So I just think it's interesting that in order to get to this place of not subscribing to a self and not, even attaching to an other than self, a non-self, or an other than self, I should say, that you have to practice non-duality and non-separation in all things. That's the only way you're going to really understand that all this nonsense about a self is nonsense. Is to see non-separation in everything and non-duality everywhere. It feels more profound in my head than in the words that are coming out of my mouth, so I'm going to shut up now.
it just seems beyond me right now. That's a big ask, you know. Um, I advocate for peace, for fairness, freedom, empowerment, and the forces of hatred and violence are really loud right now. They're just really, really loud. I was reading some Thich Nhat Hanh today because, of course, here's a Buddhist who was an activist and wasn't actually celebrated for that when he proposed that just sitting on the sidelines, you know, witnessing for peace was not enough. You had to take an activist role. I was reading some of his writings. He's activist, but he doesn't take on the hatred, the violence, all of that. He does not take that on. He confronts it and tries to neutralize it through his practice of, you know, joy, really. I mean, he was a joyful monk. And just the peaceful little being that he was, but also so fierce and resilient in standing not against, that's not really what I want to say, trying to persuade away from unskillful means. I guess that maybe close to what I'm trying to say here. He had great compassion for, I mean, here's a Vietnamese. I mean, my goodness, his country was fought over long before he was born and will be long after. Well, he's passed now, but, you know, they were chopping that up and Civil War was happening. I mean, he came by it honestly. I mean, he suffered in that environment. That was his environment of growing up. And he had to flee to France, of course, as we know. So I thought I could get some guidance from him of how you could stand for peace without feeling just incredibly angry at people who are willing to trash peace for nothing. I mean, what is the goal here? They're not even going for territory. Well, I mean, I'm not talking about Ukraine now, but I'm talking about, say, the people in our own country who are so hateful and violent. What for? It seems like such a big price to pay. And for what? I just don't understand it. I really don't. I mean, just don't. So it's thus, I don't know how I can feel one with them. That just seems very difficult. Yes, I know they all had mothers. Yes, I know, you know, I hear the Dalai Lama saying at one time we were all somebody's mother, and you know, that's how he feels compassion for the Chinese. You would think if he can do that, I could make some progress here, but I'm really not. If I'm honest, I'm really not making much progress there. I'm really not, because these are people who are sacrificing children. They're hurting children. They're killing children. I mean, you know, there's really no depths to which they will not stoop. And I'm not sure our institutions are strong enough to hold against it. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to be left after that. So this is part of my weariness and my kind of general. I'm just like the skunk at the garden party right here, but I'm being honest. It's nice to say, oh, we can all be one and this and that. I'm just not feeling it. I'm just going to say it right now. I'm not feeling it. I hope to get it back. I hope to at least have periods of feeling it, but I'm actually really not. I'm just, here I am. It's a skunk. It's me.
AZ, you're muted.
Yeah, I keep having this kind of thing where I'm pressing the unmute, but it's not unmuting. But thank you. I was just saying that the uh, the verses do say that whoever comes to enlightenment realizes personally this source. So you know, you're not alone, Linda, because basically, unless you're enlightened, you're not. None of us are really getting it. The truth of non-duality and non-separation. So, but I do think that that is one of millions of things that we can look to that remind us how alike we all are. That we live in a world of greed, delusion, and hatred. All of us who are not enlightened. We are clueless about how the other people can think the way they think and act the way they act and get irritated by those differences and our inability to understand them. Um, just highlights how our delusion is the same as their delusion. you know, it's sometimes helpful, I think, that when I think Bettina brought this in to a conversation we were having the other day, she was telling me that, I hope you don't mind my sharing, Bettina, it's not personal. Um, that it's so helpful when you're experiencing something, especially emotions, to depersonalize it and just say, she was saying she was describing to herself the sensation of the emotions, pressure is present or whatever she was saying. But I think also just to realize, anger is impersonal, confusion is impersonal, stupidity is impersonal, you know, irritability is impersonal. Whatever we experience, it's not personal. These are things that exist in the world as energies. And since we are just consciousness and body and energies that move through the body, move through the consciousness, we're just like recycling all these different mental formations that exist in the world. And we're sharing it with Trumpers, we're sharing it with Putin, we're sharing, a lot with every other living being. And our opinions may be different than their opinions, but the fact that we have an opinion is the same. That's an attachment to view. That's you know, a big fat sense of self. And I think it's helpful to remember that when things are frightening, the mind naturally makes an us and a them. Like that is what sociologists have studied and learned, is that when fear is present, we soothe ourselves by feeling more secure in our sense of self by relating to those who believe similarly to us and not relating to those who believe differently to us. That is a universal phenomenon that's been studied and shown to be so. So it makes sense to me that at times like this, when there's so much uncertainty, where there's so much like, can I just know if tomorrow there's going to be another variant and I'm going to have to stay home for another month? You know, can I just know if there's going to be a world war in my lifetime all of a sudden? You know, these things are not small things, these uncertainties. They're huge. So it's very natural to be frightened, and it's very natural when we're frightened to cling to a sense of certainty. And we often do that by clinging to our views. And that creates a whole lot of separation. So it's not an accident that at this time in the world of so much fear and so much uncertainty, there's so much discord, there's so much separation, there's so much me and them. It's what we do as humans to make us feel more secure. And of course, it makes us more vulnerable, more distrustful, more at war with each other, more unsafe. But we have to find a way to maybe to recognize the fear and know, all right, this is how fear feels, and try to soothe ourselves in some other manner without creating separation. I don't know. I think I gave that speech to myself, but um, sorry for being on a soapbox. But I'm just hearing the reality of what's happening.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking on, I think Bettina said, it's kind of, for me, there's a constant, and I mean constant, um, dance between duality and non-duality. And also in terms of what's happening in Ukraine and whatnot, those same things for me are happening every day here as well. That's sensational. So it's in the news, but that these battles of duality and non-duality, I'm noticing every day in myself. And I think I need both. I need the duality. I need to judgment, and then I need to say, you know, the non-duality will be okay. I notice, I judge, but I can let go. And I don't need to hold on to it. So for me, when I'm feeling and noticing that I'm being very dual, in other words, accusing people and blaming people, it happens for me when I'm driving. It doesn't have to be Russia. My better insight, my better instinct is to go within, because for me, that's a red flag saying I'm way out of balance within. That I'm losing the battle within. So if I take the bigger picture of, you know, Putin invading or whatnot, these things, you can be winning the outer battle, but you're losing the inner battle. And I guess for me, it's a choice, and the choice is the inner life. And the choice is the inner battle. Now, there's no answers in that for me. It just means keep rebooting the inner life, which for me, I guess, is more about relationship rather than separation. And that's relationship with myself too. Relationship with my mind, with my heart, with my body, kind of integration. And earlier, Z kind of said that these verses in some ways can seem so repetitive. And I totally noticed that too, but I think that's because, my fantasy is I'll read it once and get it. And then, oh yeah, I'm enlightened, I got that. And to me, these verses or any holy scripture, kind of like a bar, kind of like a plumb line. And they're always convicting me, but they're always leaving open spaces too. Like they're not punishing me, maybe showing me things, but then they're not going to punish me. So yeah, just one other thought, the thing about the self and the non-self, I was thinking there's neither self nor other than self. And when we read that, I was thinking, that sounds kind of negative. And to me, there's both. There's self and other. It's not a negative, it's a positive. There's me and there's you and there's us. And to me, those are equal places, equal realities. And the us part, of course, is the non-dual part of it. But I think the self is incredibly important. I can start reading some of this and think, oh, myself is bad. And yourself is really important. And I think I'm rambling on now, so.
Yeah, I think that's kind of contained in that statement. There is neither self nor other than self. It's to assert that there's no self. I think the Buddha said that isn't an absolute, and there is assert that there is a self as well. That is not an absolute. That isn't. It's kind of to say there is neither. You can also say there are both. Yeah. I just a couple tidbits about Thich Nhat Hanh. I think I remember in my early readings of him, I remember really liking that he paid a lot of attention to not clinging to a view. And when I was new to Buddhism, I had a history of Catholicism. And I really loved that he said, don't cling to beliefs, even Buddhist beliefs. This is, you figure it out. And I heard a little excerpt from some of his writings during the 60s when he was studying at Princeton. And I remember reading, there's this one line about him. He was kind of memoir style, and he was talking about feeling anger. And, it's not like, it's not like we don't all feel anger. I think maybe if we don't, he also talked about taking your anger like a baby and rocking it and stuff. So I think sometimes if we take time to sit with it, we might come to a more fullness of where the anger is coming from, and get in touch with the hurt. Because I think sometimes we just try to gloss it, like, I don't want to sit down and feel my hurt, but when I do take the time to do that, things melt a little bit. It's not permanent. I'm going to be angry again when I read about Ukraine, it's like, but it's just taking that time to be intimate with your own mind and everything. And I think the compassion piece is very, it happens to be an antidote to anger and hate. I don't necessarily have that, go into that, sitting with that, with the the thought that I'm going to banish it, because it just is, you know, but it does happen a little bit for a spell, you know. And then he, you know, he also, didn't he refuse to take sides in the war? I don't know, maybe if we pay more attention, we would notice that when we are really wrapped up in our righteousness or our view, I mean, it's hard for me to know that I'm not right when it comes to peace and war. I'm like you, Linda. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm the righteous one, right? But it's hard when you really look closely at it, when you're in the midst of it. Pretty hard to deny that there's suffering there when you're clinging to my opinion of the way things would be. And yeah, I don't know. It's just it feels like you're clinging. It feels like a clinging to self within me, you know, like it's like a clinging to myself. And it's not peace. It's kind of, there's a lot of suffering wrapped up in it. I don't know. It's just a couple things I was thinking about.
I wanted to say, especially for those of us, and I'm included, that come from a trauma background, that the things that get stirred up during times like these, and especially if they're overly stirred up, is a really clear signal that there's maybe a sense of unsafety and a frightened younger being that really needs to be attended to and resourced first. And so I feel like it's a good signal and an opportunity to really sit with that younger being and really listen and pay attention and bring back in the soothing, and just maybe let go of everything else out there and just come back to that younger being that needs to be attended to, that got maybe frightened or feels a sense of unsafety. And it takes us back to much earlier feelings that were really, really scary. And so that is probably a sign that this is a good time to bring the attention back inwards. It feels really, 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 really important to bring back the self-soothing and the self-nourishment, and not get ahead of ourselves where we just say, well, there's no self. No, when this gets stirred up, it's really important to come back to resourcing, or whatever you call it, for yourself. And so I feel like I would like to recommend that, for if that's happening right now, if that's what you need, come back to that in whatever way, shape, or form that it needs to be taken care of and attended to. Attend to that in yourself first. So
So helpful, Bettina. So helpful to be reminded of that. A lot for me, a lot of what was happening is I didn't know what was going on. Parents in those days did not include their children in any discussions about anything. You were left trying to eavesdrop and figure out what was, and I was the only child, so I didn't have siblings even to sound it out with. So I think that is a good deal of what's going on. When I don't know what's going on, I get fearful. They're going to do stuff and it's going to affect me, and I don't even know what it is, and I can't prepare. Exactly kind of the feelings that I'm experiencing now when I don't know what's going on. It's all just kind of it's all very confusing, and that anxiety, blossoming forth. So thank you so much for that reminder on that. That's a good practice note right there. So thank you.
I think we've come to the end of our time. However, why don't we sit together for the last 2 minutes and bring the attention back inwards, finding a sense of stillness within ourselves, maybe with our eyes closed. And maybe imagining that younger self that's stirring within us. Maybe it's a 5-year-old, maybe a 3-year-old, maybe it's pre-verbal. And just perhaps listen for a minute to see what is there right now, what needs attending to. And mindfulness has two aspects of it, that of being present with what is here and an appropriate response. So maybe sensing into yourself to see what might be the internal response that is most helpful to this younger being inside of you right now, leaving out whatever else might be going on in the world, but just returning home, returning to what needs to be attended to right here inside of us. And sometimes when we don't feel strong enough in ourselves to hold that space, to hold that center, maybe we can call in a higher being, something larger than ourselves for help. And calling on that larger being to be there in times of difficulty. Maybe it's a spiritual figure, a religious figure, maybe somebody that's an ancestor to us that has provided some comfort or wisdom in times like these. Maybe we can feel or listen to their wise words that they might be speaking to us or would be speaking to us in this moment. Maybe we can connect more deeply within by placing a hand over the heart or another part of our body that might need some attention, some soothing at this moment. And just resting there. And remembering that it's really important to be in community at this time. And especially in difficult times like these, community is extra important. So in whatever ways that we can invite that into our lives, be it in the hospital for Bruce and Elaine, in other ways for us. But knowing that this really cannot be done alone. It can only be done in togetherness in some way or another. So just wanted to express gratitude for this time that we share in community, to help us through this time and to find nourishment and remember to witness each other and remember who we truly are in our deepest being. Thank you, dear Sangha.